Hey guys, Mr. Gucci here, and I'm just going to walk through the latest lab identifying chemical reactions because, first of all, you're doing it remotely, so it's a lot harder for me to check in on you and see how you're doing. Second of all, it's the first time I've done this specific version of the lab, and every time I do a new lab, I always make some typos and stuff in it. So I'm making this video to help walk you through the lab and just to fix some of the common mistakes that I've already seen appearing because if you can watch this video and correct those mistakes, then I think you'll be better off than me having to check every single file individually. So let's take a look at some of these mistakes that I made, first of all. Okay, so I've listed all the possible reactions here. You just need to choose two of these reactions to follow. All right. Now, to make your job a little bit easier, I list the materials that you'll need to complete the reaction. I will briefly describe the procedure that you have to follow to make the reaction go. And down here, I'm not leaving anything to mystery. I actually tell you the chemical reaction that is occurring. And to make your job easier, I've bolded the names of all the reactants and products that appear. However, you're going to have to read it carefully and figure out which of these things mentioned are the reactants that we start with and which are the products that we end with. Okay, so I've listed the materials, the procedure, and then I've actually described the reaction. So let's say that I did the cleaning old pennies reaction. Right? This is a really simple one. I think everyone's got some vinegar or ketchup and some salt around the house. And who doesn't have like an old penny? If you can't find one, look under your couch cushions. I'm sure you can track one down. So let's say I did this reaction. I combined all this stuff, a reaction occurs, and now I go to answer the question down here. So for the first experiment, I'm going to say cleaning pennies. Now, what were the reactants in this chemical reaction? Well, to figure that out, I'll go back up here and I'll take a look. The reaction. In this reaction, the acetic acid from the vinegar or ketchup reacts with the brown copper oxide coating of the penny. As a result, we create water and copper 2 acetate. All right, so the bolded terms are acetic acid, copper oxide, water, and copper 2 acetate. The reactants are what we start with. So what did we start with here? If we read this carefully, in the reaction, the acetic acid reacts with the brown copper oxide. So we know that the acetic acid and the copper oxide are the reactants. So I'm just going to go type that in. The reactants are the acetic acid and the copper oxide. Okay? Now, what are the products? If you correctly identify the reactants, then the only bolded terms left are going to be the products. But let's just double check that. All right, the things that we must produce, and as a result, we create or produce water and copper 2 acetate. So I'm just going to enter that in. The products are water and copper 2 acetate. Now, you have to write the chemical equation down now. Remember, the reactants go on the left and the products go on the right. And you have to write their formulas. Now, I think you probably only can ID one formula here. You know the formula for water, probably. It's H2O, all right? How are you going to figure out the formula for acetic acid? You look it up. So I'm just going to look up acetic acid, all right? And the formula is over here, CH3COOH. CH3COOH. So I'm just going to type that in right now. CH3COOH. Okay, so that's one of the reactants. The other reactant is copper oxide. So let me look up that formula. All right, copper oxide. Real simple. It's CuO. It's made of a single copper, and a single oxygen. So there we go. So I'm going to type that in. CuO. That is the reactants. Okay, so there we go. Now we need a yield arrow. All right, so I can either type it in like that, or I can get kind of fancy. Check this out, guys. Check this out. If you go to Insert, Special Characters, it'll have a bunch of characters ready to go. And look, right off the bat, it has arrows. I don't know if that's what you see, but that's what I see. And if not, this is so cool. It's so cool. You can draw an arrow here, and it'll pick it out of a lineup. Okay, there we go. So why is that in the box? Okay, so maybe I didn't do this so good. Let me just, oh, there we go. Cool. All right. Now, what are the products? The products are water and copper 2 acetate. Water, I know that one. That's H2O. And as we get better at this, guys, you'll know some of these formulas without having to look them up. And the other thing produces copper 2 acetate. So I'm going to do a search for that. Copper 2 acetate formula. And it tells us that the formula is CuCH3COO in parentheses with another 2. Now, that's kind of complicated looking, guys. And I haven't talked about parentheses yet and what that means, but that's okay. I'm not going to worry about it, and I hope you don't either. I'm just going to paste it in. Check it out. If you paste, it's going to be all big and ugly. But if you paste without formatting, it just pastes it in as it is. All right, cool. So there we go. That's the chemical equation. Okay, here's the formula for the acetic acid. All right, or here's the name of the acetic acid. Oh, that's too bright. So here's the acetic acid. That's one of the reactants. And here's the formula for the acetic acid. So that's taken care of. Here's the copper oxide. And here's the formula for the copper oxide. Okay. Water is one of the products. And here's the formula for the water. Copper 2 acetate is another product. And here's the formula for the copper 2 acetate. If you identify one of the products or the reactants, its formula needs to be included. Now, again, all of the products and all of the reactants, to make your job easier, if you go look at the reaction described for each of these experiments, I have bolded for you. I have bolded all the reactants and products, right? In the reactants section of each experiment, I've bolded the reactant and product. So you're not going to get confused by other stuff. All right, that's present there. Okay, I hope that helps. I hope that helps. Let's see here. So yeah, great. Now there's one last thing. These numbers that come after each element, they need to be tiny and below. All right, they need to be subscripts. All right, now Google Docs can do subscripts, so I won't be accepting these large numbers. I want to see you turn these numbers into subscripts, and here's how you do it. You highlight it, you go to Format, Text, Subscript. Highlight it, go to Format, Text, Subscript. Highlight it, Format, Text, Subscript. One more time. Highlight it, Format, Text, Subscript. Now you might be asking, Mr. Gucci, we got two C's here. Why isn't this just C2? Or we've got two O's here. Why isn't this just O2? Don't worry about that right now. All right? Different chemists will write these formulas slightly differently. You just write them how you find them, and we'll learn more in the future about why they are the way they are. Okay, guys, good luck. I hope this helps. All right, have a great day.